Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you're sick and tired of spending $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game, stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create your wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you were all in for the September 1st all-in promotion, make sure you go to frowrestling.com and grab your all-in gear. The link is in the middle of the page for the all-in pro shop. Get your gear for the all-in show. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family and you want to get your name in the shoutouts like our good buddy Harold in St. Louis, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast and sign up today. Don't forget loyalty rewards. Any $25 contributor will co-host an episode of our live episodes with me, and our $10 a month contributors can also be entered into a drawing to co-host an episode as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget, final championship match fan voting in the all-time Dream Match tournament is going on right now at frowrestling.com. Click on the fan vote tab and get your votes in. We do not have as big a response for this tournament as I would have expected for the final. You guys made this an amazing tournament. Make sure you get in there and cast your vote today. And if you want to get some questions, some comments, concerns, things you want me to talk about in an upcoming episode, make sure you do it in one of two ways. If you want to send us questions throughout the week, that way we can get them into the episode, go to the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160 and give us your questions, your comments, anything you want us to talk about so we can add them to the show. Or if you happen to be tuned in live right now, by all means, go to the chat function of whatever streaming service you're using to listen to the podcast, and we can try to get your questions and comments right into the show right now. Make sure you put your name so I can give you a shout out for the questions you give me. I always get all these anonymous messages. Guys, I want to give you credit for the stuff that you contribute to the show because I always appreciate that so much. If you are brand new to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, you've never been here before, go to frowrestling.com and preview the topics coming to every episode. It's a great way to come up with the questions you want us to ask and to get involved in the show and become a part of the show. So, tonight's episode, lots of things to talk about. I'm going to start off right away with last night's major historic announcement. It was built up all week. Stephanie McMahon was going to be making a big announcement on Raw, and we found out to start the show that in October there will be the first ever WWE all-women's pay-per-view known as WWE Evolution. This is a huge thing for the women's evolution, the continuation of the women's movement. I did see several people, including Bully Ray, post online that this is not the first exclusive women-only pay-per-view. TNA did that with their Knockouts division 5 years ago. So you can't really claim, if you're WWE, you can't claim that you're doing this land-breaking, monumentally historic thing for the whole wrestling world. In addition, there has been countless female-only promotions, Shimmer and places like that, Women of Wrestling back in the day, even Glow, that are all women shows, and some of them have put on pay-per-views. So this is the first ever all-women WWE pay-per-view, but that still is a historic movement because WWE in the past, back in the day, would not give women enough time on television and make them an equal part of the show, and they have really tried to go out of their way to make that a part of their business now. So this is something to keep your eyes on. The show should be amazing. They made sure to reference that there will be past superstars, current superstars, everyone from Raw, SmackDown, all those different things will be on this show. So it doesn't matter which property of WWE a particular female talent performs for. They're all going to be represented. Listen to that. My telephone is ringing on me and in the middle of my show. Go figure. No phone calls all day today, and we start doing the show and the phone starts ringing. Gotta love it. And I'm sure it's somebody spam bombing me. Getting that phone call from spam ? Every day on my caller ID. But we're going to keep going because that's what we do here. I actually have a special guest with me today. My daughter Danielle is here and she's tuning in with her daddy doing the Pro Wrestling Podcast. So Danielle, say hi everybody.
Hi everybody.
Danny is my little angel. She's my sidekick tonight, and she's here while we do this episode. Moving on from the pay-per-view, which the pay-per-view is huge. There was already speculation on Twitter, Mickie James calling out Trish Stratus, saying that she wants to do it one more time. I don't think there is any singles ladies match from the past that might garner more attention than that match. And I really hope they find a way to put that together. But I expect that we'll see a lot of former divas, a lot of former female wrestlers, and I would hope that they would bring back some of the Hall of Famers just to make an appearance. Even Stephanie McMahon was asked about whether or not she would wrestle on the show, and she did not rule it out. But she did emphasize that she wants to make sure that the focus of the show is on the talent they have now and the ladies who got them to the dance. So I respect that, but I do think she should be very prominently featured on the show. Triple H was out in the news today commenting on fan reactions saying that this women's only pay-per-view is only happening because of the Greatest Royal Rumble show that was all male. That is not the case according to Triple H. He said if that show had never happened, the Greatest Royal Rumble, and we had an all-women's pay-per-view, no one would be saying anything. They would say, yeah, it's about time. It's great. They've earned it. But now because they had the Greatest Royal Rumble, automatically people are discounting the women's division and some people not giving it the credit it deserves. That's absurd. Absolutely, the women deserve it. This should have happened whether they had the Greatest Royal Rumble or not. The Greatest Royal Rumble is the catalyst to some things in WWE, but the biggest one is multiple WrestleMania-level shows each year. But I don't necessarily think that this is just to soothe the temperament of the female locker room for not getting to wrestle on that show and get a payday. I think this is something that's been a long time coming. Now, the leading up to the announcement, everybody thought it was going to be for women's tag team championships, and that did not happen. However, Stephanie did say that that is something they have looked at, and at the right time, they will introduce that. But that is not something you're going to do right at the moment. There's a lot of logistical things that go into creating a tag team division when your roster is not as deep with the female side of things as it is the male side of things. Couple other things going on. New champions crowned at the Ring of Honor tapings. Not trying to be a spoiler. If you don't want to hear spoilers about Ring of Honor, tune out for the next 20 seconds. But at the tapings, the Kingdom loses the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team championship to Nick and Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes. I think that's a good way to keep Cody relevant in the championship picture. Give him something of substance to do while you're waiting for him to be elevated back to being the world champion contender. He really should be already. But when you give the championship to Jay Lethal, you got to give Jay Lethal some time to run with it, have the rematches with Dalton Castle, take on some other challengers, and then eventually get back to Cody and Jay Lethal. So I think this is a good way to keep Cody out of the World Championship picture, much in the way they did with Seth Rollins when he was Tag Team Champion on Raw. So I think this is good. But yes, new 6-man Tag Team Champions in Ring of Honor. In addition, they had a new superstar that debuted at Ring of Honor, and that would be a huge acquisition, Montanza Cueto, the great wrestler of Lucha Underground, Jeff Cobb, debuting with Ring of Honor. I think that's a huge signing, and here's the thing. He could have easily gone to WWE. I think they very much would have been interested in him, but he didn't. He went someplace where he can maintain his relationship with the New Japan Pro Wrestling product. They are very interested in using him more frequently and cultivate his character in the American market with Ring of Honor. I think it's a good move for him. Now, I feel bad for Lucha Underground because his character really is one of the focal points of their show. So it's always a shame to see something that is that important to one company leave and go elsewhere if it has a dramatic effect on that company. You know, when you had Ricochet leave as Prince Puma, you know, Pentagon jumped right in and picked up the slack, and so there really wasn't a big drop-off. But if you continue to lose stars, and now with Pentagon being on Impact Wrestling and making such a forced presence there, and he's been traveling all over the world with Rey Fenix, you have to wonder how long he's going to be staying in Lucha Underground. Hopefully a long time. I actually like the product. If you've been watching the last couple weeks of Season 4, they are putting together some great shows. If you can get rid of all the hokey nonsense that goes on in the show, the mystical stuff and the magical stuff and the horrible leadership role that, you know, is put on that show, then the show would actually be perfect. But the in-ring action, even the commentary, is fantastic. So if you're not a Lucha Underground fan, you need to get on board. The product is great, but unfortunately, I don't know what the signing of Jeff Cobb to Ring of Honor does for Lucha Underground. Now, maybe if he stays under the mask, maybe he can work both. All three, if you count New Japan. That would be a great thing for the wrestling business. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. However, one person who will not be re-signing with Ring of Honor, that's what the reports are saying, is Matt Riddle, who has canceled his appearances on the independent scene on the 17th, 18th, 19th of August, and also has been pulled from the Battle of Los Angeles tournament for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. So he's not going to perform there. He was going to be one of the star attractions, and instead, he's off the show. And the reason he's off the show, the speculation is that he is signed with WWE, or will be shortly, and will be debuting at NXT TakeOver, which would be the perfect place to debut him. Now, the concern with him has always been that he's been very much an advocate for legalization of marijuana, and that's something that WWE has an issue with, but I guess they had to have come to some understanding agreement, or maybe he has conceded the point, and now it looks like he is WWE bound, which is a huge get for WWE. Because let's face it, on the indie scene, there are few people who are as big a draw as Matt Riddle is right now, and it's time for him to be the megastar that he is meant to be. He is an incredible talent, and I can't wait to see him in an NXT or WWE main roster ring. It should be something great to watch. Something else that may be phenomenal to watch is coming at SummerSlam, and it's all the rumors floating around about John Cena and The Undertaker's participation at SummerSlam. Right now, the rumor is that John Cena and The Undertaker will both be at SummerSlam to have a rematch from the WrestleMania match. This one with John Cena picking up the win to level the playing field, even the score, leading to one last match rumored to be at Survivor Series, where one or the other would end up coming out on top. Now, I'm fine with that. I really am. I just hope that if they do this match, it's more than a 4-minute squash match for John Cena this time over The Undertaker, like The Undertaker was over Cena at WrestleMania. I thought that was a waste of what we had been dying to see for many, many years. Now, unlike The Undertaker and Sting at Mania or something of that nature, The Undertaker versus John Cena, I don't really think we had to see it at Mania. I think people wanted to see a legitimate match between the two, and that could happen at SummerSlam. I think the Mania thing, they squashed Cena just to preserve the WrestleMania mystique of The Undertaker, even though they've had him lose twice. But at SummerSlam, he's lost many times. It's fine. Let him go into there and have a great match with John Cena, which it looks like from his appearance at the Madison Square Garden show that he is definitely capable of doing. So definitely keep our eyes on that. The big news this past week was Daniel Bryan. First news broke that he had signed a new contract with WWE, a long-term deal. Then it was stated that he may not have re-signed the deal yet, but there is one imminent. He is advertised for a host of shows coming up, so I firmly believe that he will be re-signing with WWE. It's just a matter of time, and I think that sends a clear message. He was very honest the whole time. He really wants to be with WWE. His wife is with WWE, and that is a driving motivator for him. I think he will get the reduced schedule. That sounds like that's the big hang-up in the contract negotiations, but I think he'll get that. He'll get what he needs because WWE clearly knows how much merchandise he pushes and how popular he is with the audience. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to get a world championship run. However, I will tell you, if you go to Infro's Corner, my blog, right now, the article that I put up today, you can also find it at tsj101sports.com, is all about who should be the next Universal Champion, and you'd be surprised some of the options I put out there. I think I fantasy booked SummerSlam and the Universal title better than WWE Creative has done in the last 6 months because they are so horrible at long-term booking. But check that article out. Let me know what you think in the comments section below the article. I would love to hear from you guys. That's something I'm pretty proud of. Another thing that broke earlier today, Chris Jericho, he was asked a question on Twitter about whether or not he would ever go to Impact Wrestling, and his response was very simple. Why not? And that's a very big shift from in the past. He's always been WWE only type of guy, but it seems like, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seems like since he went to New Japan, he had Vince's blessing for the match with Kenny Omega, but then he went back and he did the Naito thing. I think that might have rubbed Vince the wrong way. Now, he didn't appear at Long Beach, he didn't appear at the G1 special, but he is the IWGP Intercontinental Champion. And there is a show at Madison Square Garden next year, so he was also asked about that. And his response was, if somebody asked him, with New Japan or Ring of Honor having this huge super card, this G1 super card at Madison Square Garden during WrestleMania weekend, would the IWGP Intercontinental Champion be there? And he was like, which leaves absolutely no answer on the table and makes it so you have to wonder. So, if he's willing to appear for that in American soil during WrestleMania weekend as the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, should he still be champion by that time, that should be an indicator that perhaps the relationship with WWE may have soured just a little bit. And that could be a huge opening for places like Ring of Honor, Impact, and New Japan to work with Chris Jericho more. It could also be the signaling of maybe the end of Jericho's run with WWE. Now, he's still listed as a superstar on WWE.com. But who knows? That could be a big shift in the career of Chris Jericho. Bruce Pritchard was on his podcast this week talking about some of the dream matches that there were in WWE when they first purchased WCW, and he clarified that when WWE bought WCW, that the reason they couldn't pull off some of these dream matches was very simply because the contracts that were owned by WCW wrestlers were negotiated by Turner, not by WCW. So when they finished the company and they bought the company up and they wanted to have dream matches, he cited two in particular. He wanted to have Stone Cold versus Goldberg, and he wanted to have The Undertaker versus Sting. Both of those they would have loved to have put on immediately, but they both, Sting and Goldberg's contracts were with Turner for huge guaranteed money, and all they had to do was sit at home and do nothing and collect millions. So why would they give up millions to come to WWE and take a beating 350 days a year when they could sit home and get paid much more money than Vince would have ever given them to just stay home? And it makes a lot of sense. The only problem is for us wrestling fans, we missed out on some of those dream matches that we still have yet to see. We've still never seen Stone Cold and Goldberg. We've still never seen Sting and The Undertaker. We probably have a better shot at Sting and The Undertaker than Goldberg and Stone Cold at this point. But what could have been, it's really a shame. We didn't really talk too much in the last episode because it had just broken about Hulk Hogan being reinstated into the WWE Hall of Fame. I've been going back and forth with people all week about this. Rumor has it he's signed a new deal, a Legends contract with WWE. Look, I'll just be honest. I'm fine with him coming back, and I'm fine with him being in the Hall of Fame for one reason. WWE wouldn't be WWE without him. They wouldn't. They would have no company without Hulk Hogan. So, and all his contributions, they really are the most historic contributions to the industry at its period of time. So not having him in the Hall of Fame is kind of like Pete Rose, except Hulk Hogan didn't gamble. Hulk Hogan opened his mouth and spoke words. Words that are heinous. I will never, ever, ever, ever justify what he did. But at the same time, I find it amazing and I find it inspiring to see people like Mark Henry and the New Day speak very respectfully about the situation. Booker T being very respectful about the situation. It sounded like Booker T and Mark Henry are very open to him coming back. Mark Henry thinks he's going to continue to do work to make up for what he said. And I love that he's in Hogan's corner to try to help him get there. I think that's amazing. I had the opportunity. I was really proud that the New Day liked my tweet to them this week. Their message was so graceful. They released one statement about what went down with Hogan being reinstated, and they made it clear that, certain things are not forgivable. However, they're professionals, they're businessmen, and their message gave the tone of, we're just going to do our job. We don't have to like everybody. We don't have to forgive everybody. If we do, great. But I think in the back of their minds, I think they need more time. And I think that's awesome that they were classy enough to come out and say it and really let people know where they stood with the Hulk Hogan situation, being that they're in such prime positions every week on WWE television. So very cool to see that. And hopefully Hulk Hogan is sincere in his desire to make up for lost time and really to give back to the industry that didn't have to give him another opportunity. Luckily for him, they have. Howard Finkel is in the news this week. Please, if you have the opportunity, if you can find him on Facebook, Twitter, wherever, send Howard Finkel your prayers and support. He is in pretty bad shape. My understanding is he is really not doing so well in the health department. And Howard Finkel, such a legendary character in the world of WWE wrestling. His announcing is second to none. And well wishes to Howard Finkel. We hope he gets a speedy recovery back on his feet. WWE applied for a new trademark this week. It looks like they have trademarked Starrcade, which makes you wonder. Last year's Starrcade event that they held was a glorified house show that all of us on the podcast here and fans around the world thought should have been a network exclusive. Wasn't. Should have been, and hopefully this year will be. It sounds like they're planning to bring back Starrcade in time frame somewhere around Thanksgiving when it originally took place, which would be a great, great opportunity for WWE to really present something special and unique, not on the level with WrestleMania, but they could easily present a show that, if I were them, would take on more of an old school feel. You don't have to have every championship in the world defended, but give them some classic old school style matches. Get the Revival out there, and really let them put on a technical masterpiece with another team, like the Bar or somebody who really can go in the ring. Let the champions, if they're going to be there, put them in dream matches. AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan, if you're not going to let that be the main event at WrestleMania. Or Nakamura versus Samoa Joe, or something like that people will really want to see. It's special, it's unique, but it's just that one night only. I think that would be a great idea for WWE if they do move forward with the Starrcade pay-per-view, which I think that's probably the direction they're heading. It's just my feeling. My gut is telling me that. A former WWE star is interested in a comeback. That is Kelly. Kelly, she was back at the Royal Rumble in the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. Did very well in the match. She was suffered from major injuries in the past. Apparently is all healed up and ready to make a return to the company. I think this is the perfect time, considering we have the women's pay-per-view coming up soon, and she'll be able to be a part of that. And I think that she was able to contribute in a much bigger way this return at the Royal Rumble than when she was originally in the company. I thought she was green as a gourd and couldn't perform much at all when she was first there. Now clearly much better in the ring, and I'd be curious to see how she performed with today's athletic and really diverse female talents that WWE has. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. A sad new note from the world of professional wrestling today. Alex Shelley, one of the Motor City Machine Guns, he announced his retirement. This comes on the heels of his contract with Ring of Honor expiring earlier in the week, and it sounds like he's retiring from wrestling because he wants to focus on his wrestling school, his training school. I have reached out for him for comment, have not gotten a comment from him. I actually was reaching out this week to literally dozens of wrestlers trying to get some interviews for you guys to bring some excitement to the podcast, and hopefully I'll hear back from him at some point. I would love to interview him. One of my favorite guys who never went to WWE, but who could have really lit up the 205 Live Cruiserweight division. I think that's a huge thing, that opportunity that never really came his way from WWE, and it's really a shame. I know he wrestled some minor matches on like Heat or Velocity or something like that at one point, but that doesn't really count. We all know that. It would be nice to see him go in, and if WWE was smart, since he has no contract, and I know he announced his retirement, they should swoop in anyways and throw a ton of money at him just to bring him in for a few matches. I know he got hurt, and I know he's out of commission right now, but when he is healed, it would be very, very interesting, and I think lucrative for him to bolster the 205 Live division. I think that would be a great opportunity for WWE. Another spoiler, I'm sorry, I have to do it. If you haven't seen the NXT shows or the news from the NXT tapings, the new NXT champion was crowned, and the main event for TakeOver was revealed as Tommaso Ciampa has won the NXT championship from Aleister Black. Black wants his rematch. You naturally would expect that to be the main event of NXT TakeOver, but a swerve is at the future set of tapings is that Johnny Gargano gets involved, and now it's going to be a three-way match, a triple threat for the NXT Championship. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and Aleister Black for the NXT Championship. And, you know, Jim Ross and several other talents this week saying that both Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are ready for that next step in their career, so I would not be surprised if we see Aleister Black regain the championship and Ciampa and Gargano move to the main roster, one on opposite brands is what I would do if I was WWE. Those two have had their run together in NXT. Nothing on the main roster is going to be anywhere as good as what they've done in NXT, so it would not be a good idea to put them together on the main roster. It's almost like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Don't do it. Separate them, keep them on separate brands, but it sounds like it's time for them to move up to the main roster. Travis Browne, the husband of Ronda Rousey, was in the news this week. He was at Raw with Ronda Rousey when she jumped the barricade last week and was attacking Alexa Bliss. And he was asked if he'd be interested in a run in WWE, and he said that he'd be very interested in teaming with his wife for a match. I don't know that he wants to make it a career change, but I think it's something he wouldn't mind doing once or twice just to say, mark it off the bucket list. Say that he did it once in his lifetime, and especially if he gets to do it with his wife, that would be a really awesome experience for them. I don't know how good the match would be, and I don't really know what his athleticism is as far as being a professional wrestler, but if he has anything remotely serviceable to offer like his wife does, then they could be an incredible team for a tag team match. So hopefully Travis Browne gets that opportunity at some point in the future. And one of the last tidbits for the week, Tommy Dreamer in the news this week stating that when they did the angle where he came in with the Dudleys and they were facing the Wyatt family and all that kind of stuff, that WWE offered him a substantial amount of money to close House of Hardcore. They offered him a job and tons of money to get rid of House of Hardcore and come on board. And you have to wonder, is this just like, hey, look, we're going to have you close that, we're going to buy that from you, give you a job, and then a year later kick them to the curb and eliminate a competitor in the process? Because usually when you purchase the company from somebody in that fashion, that happened back in the day with the Briscoes when they were majority owners in Georgia Championship Wrestling. When Vince came in and swooped that up, they had to sign contracts that they wouldn't open another organization. So, and they were given lifetime jobs with WWE. So you have to wonder if that would have been a similar kind of deal that they would have offered Tommy Dreamer in this situation. And if it was, then, you know, I'm proud of him for sticking to his guns and keeping the company that he has grown from the ground up. His shows are engaging. They just finished a tour in Australia, so they're really expanding and doing well. And he makes all these appearances: Lucha Underground, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor. He's been on all 3 of them in the last 6 months. So he's clearly open to working with people. So that's awesome. The only thing I'd like to see, I want to see him go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and wrestle with Tomohiro Ishii or Hiroki Goto or somebody like that. I think it'd be a great match. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music and sound effects used in our shows. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen. While you're at it, don't forget to grab your copies of Legendary Elements and Banani Market, also available through frowrestling.com. We thank AlleyRepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move and you're considering college or university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our other website at www.frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. One last announcement, please make sure you check out our independent wrestling event page just this week, added to the Fro Wrestling website. Go to frowrestling.com, click on indie events, and you will see several independent wrestling shows going on around the country. Check out and support indie wrestling. It is essential for the growth of the product. Please make it a point to get to some of those local shows. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you guys so much for taking a few moments with us today. And if you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to 2 places: www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles on the world of professional wrestling, or go to my blog. Go to frowrestling.com and click on In Fro's Corner, where I have all my editorial pieces up there for your review right now. The latest one published earlier today. Check out who should be the next Universal Champion, and give me comments about how you think I booked the shows. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.